Gamer Braves.
What's up guys, this is Wandermill from Game Braves. It may surprise you to learn that I like Gundam, like a lot. So I constantly get asked about this lapel pin. It is literally a Principality of Zeon pin, and it is never not embarrassing when the person who asks you about it is like a cute girl or something, and you have to explain to them, no, it's from a mecha anime. But seriously, what started as a cool thing my classmate showed me when I was 7 has turned into a pretty much lifelong obsession at this point. To the point that I've overruled at least one family vacation to go to Japan so I could visit the giant unicorn Gundam in Odaiba. Spoiler alert, it was pretty cool. And I'm not the only one who likes Gundam either. Japan clearly does, and more importantly, Bandai does, because they can't stop making Gundam games. And that's what I'm here to talk about today. The games are a little off message with the Gundam brand because, you know, the whole war is bad thing. And these games make war look pretty sick, especially when you're piloting a giant robot. Look, Gundam is pretty much one of the most influential mecha anime of its time. It's up there with Gao Gaiga and Evangelion. It single-handedly shaped a chunk of the genre into what we know today. And on top of that, the franchise has grown so much in the numerous decades since it's come out that there's practically a Gundam for everyone. And more importantly, depending on how old you are, you probably have an attachment to a different Gundam. For example, if you're the older fan, you're probably the type to tell me that I need to watch 0079 even if it doesn't look great. Or if you were in the 90s, or just straight up American, you probably fell in love with the comically edgy Gundam Wing.
I'll kill you.
On the other hand, if you have poor taste, you might have started with Gundam Seed. Likewise, there's just as many cool Gundam games out there, and without further ado, let's get into some of the ones that you should check out. Look, there's no way to say this politely, but this is the nerdiest game I have ever played. I mean, we are talking Pocket Protectors and Dungeons and Dragons level of nerdy. And this is its greatest strength as well as its weakness. So Battle Op 2 is a team-based shooter, but with a twist because it fully acknowledges that you're piloting a giant robot, unlike many Gundam games which just treat it like a normal character. You are piloting a giant vehicle. It controls unlike any other game I've ever seen and gets the mecha feeling right of switching your weapon while you're shooting because you're out of ammo to something else, maybe even a melee weapon to go in only to get a sick parry by the enemy mech. On top of that, you can even do fights in space. It has its own control scheme for that lets you control your altitude and stuff. Now remember how I said the game acknowledges that you're piloting a mech. It does this in more than just the game's controls. You can get out of this mech. In fact, you're encouraged to. You need to do this to capture objectives or plant bombs in the enemy base to sabotage them. You can even technically fight outside of your mech if that's what you wanted, but come on, let's be real. We're all here to pilot giant robots. Its main flaw, however, is its steep learning curve, because there's a lot going on in this game that it doesn't really teach you about unless you're willing to go through the pages and pages of tutorial. I played the game when it first came out, and guess what? No one knew that you could sabotage the bases. It made the sabotaging the bases really easy. Its other weakness is it is a free-to-play gacha game. You have to gacha for your mobile suits. And that can be off-putting for some, especially since you have the problem of some mobile suits not being as strong as the 5-star version of them, for example. That being said, it does handle its own gacha nature well. The game uses a point system that most Gundam games use and will actually limit the cost of each mobile suit for certain missions. So if you wanted to have a grunts only mission, guess what? You can probably find it and you won't have to deal with the enemy team being full of double Zetas just because you wanted to go out and have fun with your Zaku too. I legitimately think it's one of the best Gundam games right now, but it is weak in the mass appeal section because guess what? Unless you really like Gundam, I couldn't recommend this game just because of how weird the controls are. So, Gundam Extreme versus Maxiboost on, or some nonsense like that. Listen, it's got a very big mouthful name and the community just calls it M-Bon for that reason. This is a 2v2 arcade fighter, but not like the 2D fighting kind. It's more like an arena fighter. And I kind of adore this game. I adore it almost as much as I hate it. It has a huge roster, and I mean huge roster of mobile suits. You can play as a bunch of stuff, including Shin Matsunaga's White Zaku for whatever reason, and it's kind of great. It's very fast, it's very hectic, but just like Battle Op 2, it suffers from the fact that apparently this game was designed to be played by aliens. Especially if you just picked up the game, there's no clear tutorial in sight to teach you, and you're just kind of like left playing bot matches until you figure out what you need to do. Meanwhile, the enemy AI seems to be uniquely good at destroying you with like long range beams and stuff. Its strongest trait is the mobile suit representation. Let's face it, Gundam is a huge franchise, and sometimes you're gonna see mobile suits get ignored. Shout out to my boy, the Gushin Rebake Full City, who just straight up is not in any other Gundam games. I think maybe he got added in the Breaker. I'm not sure. My point is, this game has the Gushin Rebake Full City, and that's pretty much your sign that it might be a good game after all. When I say it's hectic, I mean it's really hectic, because each character can also activate these different types of bursts, and when they do, the entire game freezes to show which character is activating the burst. And guess what? If you want to play it on a good level, you're probably all going to activate your bursts at about the same time. It's a lot of fun, and it has its roots in an arcade game, which is also a lot of fun. But guess what? It's a very hard sell if you're not already all in on the fantasy. Okay, I technically cheated. Gundam Evolution is not out yet. We got to play it, and that's what matters. Because I think compared to the other two, this is the game that you may actually get your non-Gundam friends into. Let's be real, it's basically Overwatch, but with a Gundam skin, which from what I hear is more different from Overwatch than Overwatch 2 is. While some of us, may decry the lack of nerdiness that Battle Op 2 has, for example, guess what? That's how you make a game for mass appeal. And I'm hoping that we actually see that reflected in the numbers when Gundam Evolution launches, because it's a good team shooter. Like, it took the best parts of Overwatch and then added just a little bit of Gundam Dash to it. Unlike Battle Op, which is mostly tied to the UC timeline, Evolution is more of the Gundam versus style, they're all here. You have all sorts of mobile suits like the Barbatos, the Exia. They're all there, and they all fill your typical hero shooter roles like, DPSs, tanks, what have you. I of course do have my gripes with Gundam Evolution, and you can see them in the video where we go deep on Gundam Evolution. But basically it boils down to everything I didn't like about Overwatch is still in Evolution. But even that aside, I have to concede that out of the 3 games, this is probably going to see the most mainstream success, since they really want it to be an esport, and the fact that it's actually approachable means that it's going to get some play. Dota and League have like 30-minute matches in them, and they're somehow still around, so clearly I'm in the minority about my gripes with the game. The only other fear with Gundam Evolution is, in fact, its roster. It very much feels like a roster that intends to play it safe, especially with the alternate universe pick, so I do hope that Sunrise proves us wrong and adds some real weirdo picks. Come on, Tequila Gundam, let's go. I want my sombrero hat. But other than that, the safety of this pick should see it some success. After all, you shoot, you get your ult, you use your ult, you lose, you blame your teammates. It's a tried and true formula, it works. So that's pretty much all you need to know about these 3 Gundam games that you can play now, or soon in Evolution's case. As much as I love the absolute bonkers size of Maxiboost roster, it's arguably my least favorite of the 3, just because I don't particularly have much love for the Dissidia style arcade fighter. On the other hand, while I adore Battle Op 2 for its bizarre and nerdy nature, I have to concede that it will never do the numbers that Evolution is likely to do. Let's face it, approachability is good for your games. However, the fact that it does keep that bizarre Gundam quirkiness is part of why it's my #1 pick on this list, with Evolution placing just nicely in the middle. Cause hey, good shooting does go a long way. What's your favorite Gundam game? Did you play that turn-based Gundam RPG on the PS2? Let us know in the comments below. This has been One More from Game Braves, and remember, Tequila Gundam deserves your love and a new model kit. Please. Please.
Hey there! Thank you so much for watching our videos. Don't forget to give us a subscribe if you'd like to see more, and like so we know what kind of content you want to see. Got suggestions for new content? Let us know in the comments below too. Thank you so much again for watching. Take care, dudes.